Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Living on Music. I'm Steve Hauk. Part of what we love to do on Living on Music is go down the incredible journey roads of some of music's legends. And I've been a music journalist for over 20 years and interviewed some of the biggest in the world. And a lot of those were on phone and then written into articles. But for Living on Music for the last 3 years, we've really been able to meet up at least visually in Zoom and been able to talk to people really wonderfully that have these incredible careers in music. And those are people like Tom Rush, like Carmine Appice, like so many of the guests, Carla Bonoff. We could go on with Peter Noon. These people with deep, long careers, what they've been doing for their music life. And this is no exception. Melissa Manchester's career, it's remarkable, not only for its longevity, its length and depth, but also its versatility. She's had an incredible run and continues to. And what she's done of late, we're going to talk about too. I mean, tributes to Ukraine, working with churches and Jewish groups and other kinds of different, segments and sections of people. And she continues to be, again, also an incredibly renowned singer-songwriter for many, many years to this day. And she just returned to New York. She's born and raised in the Bronx, just returned to New York decades later. And the day before we did the interview, she had sung at Carnegie Hall in a tribute to her longtime teenage friend, who we talk about on the show. You might have heard of him, Barry Manilow. And so she continues to do so many other projects we talked about. And then we whirlwinded down her past and talk about her incredible growth and run in the 70s and 80s. And then also just continuing to do, movie scores, TVs, scores, appearances, acting, incredibly versatile lady. And we will talk to her about all of that down this road. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please give a warm Living on Music welcome to Melissa Manchester. Melissa Manchester, I'm honored, privileged, and stoked to have you on Living on Music. Welcome, my dear. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I'm really excited, and what is wonderful is that I have you on the show while you're sitting basically in your homeland. You're from Bronx. Tell me a little bit about this amazing evening you had last night. Celebrating the life of one of your dear friends from way back, and talk about that experience with the Barry Manilow tribute.
Yes. Last night was it was thunderous. It was magnificent. It was Barry's first, you can believe it. It was his first tribute as a composer.
Wow.
It was the 40th. It was also celebrating the 40th anniversary of the New York Pops.
Oh.
So the magnificent Pops were playing several of Barry's beautiful compositions. some of us got a chance to sing. And years ago, Steve Reinecke, the maestro, introduced me by retelling this precious memory that Barry had many, many years ago of us sitting in his little apartment, eating Chinese food. And I said to him, one day we're going to do a concert and we're going to sing each other's songs.
Oh.
And I'm going to sing I Am Your Child. And last night I sang I Am Your
You
Child.
did. That's right. And that's what I love about this, Melissa, and you know, and knowing of you for many, many years, but also being able to dig a little deeper now that we were going to have a chat. I saw how this place behind me, I put venues behind me and Living on Music.
Oh, that's so great.
They're either associated with the artist or they're my favorites in the world. And I have been here before for a couple of things, but you used Carnegie Hall back in the day with Bette, right? Bette Midler. You was the first. Was that the first time you sang there?
It was the first. Yes, it was the first. It was her first Carnegie Hall concert. Yes, and it was the first. It was the first presentation of the Harlettes.
Right, the Harlettes.
Yes, we had just been formed. I was the TUTS in the middle.
Oh, I know, and I've seen pictures, and I'm like, wow, the Harlettes are the Harlettes, and that was Carnegie Hall. You ended up singing there yourself, right?
Yes, yes, and then returning there many times with Colors of Christmas.
Oh, that's absolutely fabulous. Well, look, there is a incredible train ride of amazing things you've done in your life, and I could be with you for 5 hours, but we won't do that to each other. We will go down this road. I want to talk about some of the more present stuff of you because you are doing such amazing stuff. How did Melissa Manchester, as a musician and as a human being, deal with the last 3 years? I know that working on Review, the album that's coming out, next, is part of what you did over the last 3 years. How did you deal with the pandemic, Melissa?
Well, gosh. I came home from a jazz festival, gigging in a jazz festival in Malaysia, and then the planet shut down the next week.
Wow.
And like many people, I worked through the layers of anxiety, how long this was going to last, how are we going to pay bills, what you do with your life as you know it shutting down. Totally. And finally, I had to deal with the grief of it all. And once I identified the grief, I could start to bounce back.
Sure.
Start to breathe again.
Sure.
So I would drive up and down my boulevard where I live just to see what the stores looked like, if they were boarded up, if anything was open, if anybody else was driving. Hello, stranger.
Right.
And then I started to think about music again, because that's how I navigate life. And we had recorded a lot of Review down at Citrus College, which is a community college where I'm artist in residence.
You sure are. Absolutely.
And I've used their student singers and their student musicians. And so I started thinking that I could make videos to accompany these re-recorded charted hits.
Yes.
Which is the centerpiece of what Review is all about. It's the re-recording of many of these charted hits. But what I didn't expect was how many of these songs grew into this moment.
Oh, wow.
And the first video we released last year was Just You and I, which is a song that Carole Sager and I wrote a long time ago.
Right.
During the women's movement.
Yes.
And now it had become unexpectedly this tribute to essential workers, marginalized people who had suddenly become essential workers,
Yes.
Workers, nurses,
sure,
pizza delivery people, you name it.
Sure.
That kept us going. And so each video became sort of a travelogue of this time.
Sure.
Per song. When we did Don't Cry Out Loud, the video that went with it was about every venue on the planet shutting down.
Wow.
And all of the ancillary businesses that surround theaters and cabarets also shutting down. It was just
sure.
Baby cried the day the circus came to town, 'cause she didn't want parades just passing by her. So she painted on a smile and took up with some clown as she danced without a net upon the wire. I know a lot about her, 'cause you see, baby is an awful lot like me. Don't cry out loud, just keep it inside. Learn how to hide your feelings. Fly high and proud, and if you should fall, remember you almost had it all. You almost had it all. Baby saw that when they pulled that big top down, they left behind her dreams among the litter. And that different kind of love she thought she found, there was nothing left but sawdust and some glitter. Oh, but baby can't be broken, 'cause you see, she had the finest teacher, that was me. And I told her, we don't cry out loud, just keep it inside. Learn how to hide our feelings. Fly high and proud, and if we should fall, remember we almost had it all.
I talk about that on stage. You know, I am the girlfriend that will keep talking about this a little bit
Sure.
because we're back in community.
Yes.
You know, I started performing just as COVID was starting to ease up a little bit.
Right.
We're still 6 feet apart and
Right.
masks loved. And now everybody's back and no more masks and everybody's sitting and comfortable again and in community. And it's so touching because in those early days, I tell you, it felt like being part of the USO performing for the troops.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
Been a midlife cover band guy for 17 years singing, and that's been an incredible run
Yes.
for me because I never expected to be. But even in my little way, you know, the gigs were pushed down, but you continued to try to. I went last night to see Jacob Dylan's band, the Wallflowers,
yes,
at the Birchmere in
Oh, yeah.
Alexandria. And it was wonderful seeing everybody there and back. You started playing again in 2021, getting back out there. I love the one performance you shared the stage with Michael Feinstein, and you got surprised by that new standard award. Was that neat?
Yes, it was magnificent.
Great.
It was very, very touching, and particularly from my old dear friend Michael, and because he's the nation's archivist of the American Songbook, and to be acknowledged as part of it, it was really something.
Well, I love what he said too, Melissa, which is worth repeating, is you continue to write and perform music that will stand the test of time and become the pop standards of tomorrow. So that's what's beautiful about what you're doing. And it continues. You also had the thing with Bob Fosse's dancing.
Yes, I have a song back on Broadway.
Yes, you do. If it feels good, let it ride.
Let it ride. Yeah. Song that I wrote with Carole Sager a long time ago.
Right.
And it was in the original production of Dancing.
Right.
And it made the cut for this performance. And so the dancers are gorgeous.
Right.
It's thrilling.
Well, and it was from your debut record, right? From Home to Myself.
Yes.
I mean, look at that. That is just a cycle that is just continuing. You had some wonderful concert appearances too, as you do all the time, but the Cooper Union's Women's History Month performance sounded very powerful.
God,
Talk a little bit about that.
It was so thrilling. Yes, well, Cooper Union was was created in about 1850. I think it was the first college that allowed women in. And so the Great Hall still stands, and that's where we performed. And in the hall, among the luminaries who have spoken there,
Right.
are Gloria Steinem, Douglas, Abraham Lincoln. Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. And you can feel that hallowed ground.
Oh, wow. That's fabulous. You
Yeah,
also
so it was a festival of women. Yeah, it was a festival of women. It was a great audience. They were, men and women were just cheering and thrilling. There were all kinds of performers, dancers, and musicians and singers, and beautiful.
And you played piano solo for 2 songs. That had to feel.
I played and I sang. Yes.
That has to just continue
Yes.
to just fill you with that kind of stuff. You also You also played in Connecticut, my home state, at the Katharine Hepburn Get the Kate.
Yes.
In Old Saybrook.
Just a couple of days ago.
Oh.
So it was so great. The audience was just lovely, and again, you can feel that people are and they don't even realize it until you say it's community that we missed. Yes, you missed hugging your best friend, but it's the community of people and feeling comfortable and being able to relax and breathe together.
Oh, no, that's spectacular. And also the Vogel, which is at the Count Basie Center, where that is a wonderful place. Yes.
It was great. It was really great. And
look at that. You're churning along. It's fabulous. As you seem to always have. And I love that. One thing I love to see is we were commissioned by Jeffrey Beagle to do the concerto for piano and orchestra. And that's another accomplishment in a different kind of place of Melissa Manchester. Talk a little bit about what you're doing.
Well, I had gotten to know Jeffrey through his Zoom concerts during the pandemic, and I would leave little, remarks in the chat, usually bravo, because he's a spectacular pianist.
Right.
And one day I was backstage putting on my eyelashes, and he sent me a little message, and he said, "Would you ever consider composing a concerto for piano and orchestra?" I thought, I don't know, would I? And I said, yes. And so it took me a few months to find the way to match my write with his pianistic abilities, which are just astronomical.
Yeah.
Because writing a concerto is not the same as writing a song.
No.
And every time I would think that I was done with it's 5 movements, and it's being orchestrated now. But every time I would think that I was finished with a development, I would go on to YouTube and watch him perform, and he was just like that. And I thought, come on, go deeper, do more, give it more to do.
Wow.
So it was wild. I'm excited.
Oh, I bet. And again, adding to your wonderful plethora of things that you're doing, there are a couple of things too that I just got blown away a little bit on. 2022, you did the Ukrainian national anthem.
Yes.
Now, now, we're all living with that horror over there. We're trying to feel supportive. You found this way. How did this begin to come into you, and how did you do this? Because I know you have personal connections.
Yes, my maternal grandmother came from the border of Ukraine in 1914. She was chased out.
Right. She was.
Yeah, she and a cousin were the opposite of sacrificial lambs. Their family said, "You go to America at age 14, you start a life, and we're just going to stay here." And of course, they were all killed.
Right.
But I just felt in that moment this horrific, ridiculous act of evil visited upon the people of Ukraine required some action. So we spoke to the lovely head of the music department at Citrus College.
Yes.
And asked if I could find some kind of translation for the Ukrainian anthem and have their young Citrus singers perform it, have a video made out of it, and used as a fundraiser.
Oh, yes. It's beautiful. It's really something else.
Glorious Spirit. shines and lives forever. Blessed by fortune, brotherhood will stand up together like the dew before the sun. Enemies will fade. We will further rule and prosper in our promised land. Oh, we will lay our soul and body for the cherished freedom. Ukraine blood will raise the nation of the joy.
You also did something with the LA Jewish
Great.
Symphony and Choir, with under the direction of Noreen Green.
Yes.
Yeah. How did that come to be?
Yes, yes. Well, I've been doing Christmas concerts for many years at
Yeah.
the Colors of Christmas and all that stuff. And many years ago now, there was a horrific bombing in Mumbai at the Chabad house. And a young rabbi and his wife and the congregation, they were all killed. And I was living in upstate California, and I needed to figure out a way to find something to hold on to.
Right.
So I happened to find a little synagogue that I was not a member of, but it was crowded because it was, it affected the community. And it turned out that this rabbi was best friends with this young rabbi who had been murdered. And he said, the thing is that God doesn't want us to answer darkness with more darkness. God commands us to answer darkness with light. And I heard in my brain, let there be more light.
Oh my.
And so I wrote a Hanukkah song
Yes, you
called
did.
Let There Be More Light. And wonderful maestra Noreen Green had it performed with the symphony and their singers.
Let there be more light, let there be more light, not just for 8 nights, but every day of your life. Let every mitzvah bless every precious day. There are so many ways to let there be more light. Happy Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah, from my heart to yours. Happy Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah, from my heart to yours.
It's one of the few Hanukkah songs
Oh,
that exists, I think.
yeah, I love that too, and yet people will get a taste of that
Yeah.
from today on the show as well. Look at that is the current Melissa Manchester. So it must feel wonderful to have things be so busy.
Yes, because they're all adventures.
Yes.
It's just about the next adventure, the next thing to say yes to that you've already done or that you've never done before. This concerto I've never done before, but these songs for review I have done before, but I'm infusing them with new harmonics and new approaches. And, songs become living monologues.
Right.
And they never bore me. I've sung these songs thousands of times, but I'm grateful for the gifts of them because I have grown with them and I've been able to infuse my performances with my life experiences.
Yes, absolutely. And that kind of comes to the topic of review, which again, we've talked a little bit about, and
Yeah.
that seems to be the kind of the context of what you just talked about is being able to
Yes.
do. It's interesting because you too just did that. They released a thing called
Yes.
Songs of Surrender, and it is all these songs that
Yes.
that I've loved them since day one, and it's different ways that
Oh, sure.
it's different ways that they're doing it. So yes,
exactly.
wonderful to see you, and we'll roll some of those things in. Going back real quick, a little bit into your life, again, born in the Bronx. So you're home right now, kind of.
Yes.
give or take a ride down, up and down there. And I love that your father was a bassoonist for the New York Metropolitan Opera. That had to be a young, big influence for Melissa Manchester.
Oh, I grew up in the wings of the Met Opera. It was amazing. I mean, I remember before it moved to Lincoln Center, it was between 38th and 39th Street.
Right.
And my dad, when they couldn't get a babysitter in the afternoon, when my mom was working and he had to go to rehearsal, sometimes he would bring me to the opera with him. And he would be as a 5-year-old to the wings next to the guy who was pulling the ropes for the curtain, and he'd say, "Stay."
Look, right, little.
And then he'd go into the orchestra to play.
Oh, that's so funny.
But it was, I was surrounded by these magnificent singers and the sound of a gigantic orchestra and the lights and the curtain and the gorgeous costumes. It was thrilling. Yes. So
I love that.
Yeah. Those are my memories. Yeah.
Right. And it was Manhattan School of Music, the Manhattan High School Performing Arts, New York City. Yes. New York City was really your It was. We moved down to Manhattan. We lived on the Upper West Side. And my sister and I both went to the High School of Performing Arts, and I started working when I was 15. Yes. And singing jingles. That's how I met Barry Manilow. Exactly. Singing now, that always comes up, the singing jingles. What was one of them? Do you remember? McDonald's. Really? Morton Salt. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, I did a lot of choral work. Barry and I did a lot of choral work. That's how I met Patty Austin, the great Patty Austin. Sure. Ashford and Valerie Simpson. We were all singers. Oh, absolutely. And you and Bette and you became close at that point with what we were talking about earlier with the Harlettes. Which Bette was not a jingle singer. No. I met Bette because Barry was her new musical director at the time. Nice. So she was playing on the same street that I was playing at. She was playing at the Continental Bathhouse, which was a gay bathhouse. And I was playing up the street at a club called The Focus. And she came to see me one night. It's wild. Oh, that's fabulous. And that became a bond. Yes. And then last year, I was one of the people who paid tribute to her on the Kennedy Center Honors. So that was thrilling. That's right. Yes. I remember that. I remember seeing you do. Oh, that is always an incredible experience, I would think. It was. I mean, the audiences were thrilled to be there. President Biden and Dr. Biden were there. People were just elated to be back there. I love that.
I am thrilled to be here for my friend of 50 years, the fabulous and brilliant Bette Midler. Hi, sweetheart. When I was singing at a club on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, Bette was performing across the street at a club called the Continental Baths. One night, Bette and her musical director, my friend Barry Manilow, brought Bette to see me. I asked Bette what she was doing, what she was working on, and she told me that she was gearing up for her first concert at Carnegie Hall. And Bette asked me, "Well, would you like to sing in back of me?" And I thought, well, actually, I'd like to sing instead of you, but in the meantime, I'll be happy to.
Have you been given a Kennedy Center honor?
No, I haven't been given no.
I'm thinking why who doesn't deserve something more than you on that? And that would be a wonderful thing to do. Just going back for a quick, things happened pretty fast. I mean, the 70s really soared for you. How was Melissa Manchester feeling? Were you on top of the world and excited? Were you concerned at the way things were going so fast, or it was just incredible?
Yeah, I mean, I had been submitting demos to record companies for 7 years. Right. And then I was signed to Bell Records, and I made my first 2 albums for Bell. Yes. And then Bell was absorbed into Arista, headed by Clive Davis. Sure. And I had my first hit on my first Arista album. In those days, when everything is coming at you fast and for the first time, you really don't know. I didn't know anything else but the music. Right. I was not financially literate. I didn't really know about fashion or
Right.
vision
Right.
around me, sort of manipulating the image and all that stuff.
Right.
And then in the early 80s, the disco scene showed up, and that was very interesting because it really changed. It shifted the position of the artist and the producer because electronics started.
Right.
The percussive beat that kids
Sure.
could dance to discos. And so it made the producer and the sound really the star of the vehicle.
Sure.
So that was interesting and strange.
Yes.
And the thing is that I've lasted long enough, so I'm now in the golden age of the independent artist, which is so fantastic.
That is.
And which I have learned about through my students.
Oh.
So it's wild.
Oh, completely is. God, that
Completely wild.
That is. And as you surged through your musical career, you did so many other wonderful things. Search for Tomorrow was something that I watched. My mother was an actress back in Connecticut in the days, and watched those soaps to watch her friends act. And, doing things like that had to be fun. Again, like you're doing now. You're doing different kind of pieces of music here and there. You were doing different kinds of things and continuing to do. Did you love that as part of your life?
Oh yeah. Well, I was on the road so much, and I really had no idea about soap operas because the only people I would see watching soap operas were the maids in the Holiday Inns turning it on while they cleaned the room. I had no idea that people watch soap operas by the gazillions. But it was fun. And then, to do the national tour of song and dance, take over for Bernadette Peters and do that, and write for Disney, write for The Great Mouse Detective and Lady and the Tramp 2.
Right.
That was very exciting.
Right.
And to get a Grammy for Each Year She Talks About You, and to be nominated and to be on the Academy Awards, to be the first artist to have 2 songs nominated was really thrilling.
Now, for the motion picture The Promise, the nominated song, I'll Never Say Goodbye.
Say goodbye. Why, I can barely say goodnight. If I can hardly take my eyes from yours, how far can I go? Walk away. The thought would never cross my mind. I couldn't turn my back on spring or fall. Your smile least of all. When I say away, I mean forever. I trust tomorrow as much as today. I'm not afraid to say I love you, and I promise you I'll never say goodbye.
So there was a lot that was thrilling. The thing that's amazing for me, which makes me more and more grateful, is that my career has lasted long enough for me to actually grow into it and learn and become wiser and become more aware of
Totally.
aspects of it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it just, there are so many aspects of this career that I've looked at and are wonderfully impressed because of the way you continued you did the Muppets.
Oh, I did. Yes, I did. Yes.
And that's a big deal back then.
They were incredible. I never worked so hard in my life. I had the opportunity to work with the great Jim Henson and Frank Oz and Jerry Nelson. I mean, working with them, you got such a perspective that you just are not aware of when you're watching them, because they are setting up all of the scenes from under a stage with their hands manipulating the Muppets. And I got a chance to go to the workshop and see how they're built, and the love of that cast and crew is really spectacular.
Oh, that is spectacular. Yeah, when I found that out, I was like, that had to be a wonderful thing. And again,
Yes,
working with so many different people, but I love the moment around 82 when you had Bernie Taupin as part of
Yeah.
your world, because that was when Elton was just beginning the big phase of his recording
yes.
career, and that must have been neat to have something with Bernie Taupin to
Yes,
collaborate.
I wrote a couple of songs with him, but I wrote for the Working Girl with him. And the thing that was so fascinating with Bernie is you never sit in a room with him. He just sort of says hello and talks with you a little bit.
Oh,
And
that's
then
wild.
one day you get a fully finished lyric in the mail.
Oh,
When I read these lyrics, I mean, it's literature. It's not even lyrics. You could just put a frame around them and hang it up. But they
right.
sing, lyrics sing. So it was thrilling to write with him. It was thrilling to write with Kenny Loggins. We wrote
Yes,
whenever I friend with him.
you sure did.
And yeah, it was great. And through it all, I've had two fantastic children, and now I'm a grandma. So
Yeah.
it's amazing, yeah, how rich my life has been.
Well, you're going strong too, and it's interesting how some people are doing. Like Kenny's doing what he's calling his final tour right now.
Yes,
Aerosmith just announced yesterday they're doing their final tour this year.
yes, Manhattan Transfers too. All of my sweet friends.
All
Yeah.
your buddies in Manhattan Transfer.
I'm not.
And you're surging. Melissa, it's
I'm-
wonderful.
I just like what I do.
I know.
I love it.
I know. And when I heard we were going to talk, I kind of went down your road, and I'm like, whoa, she's just
Yeah.
continuing. What is some of the things to kind of wrap us up? What are some of the things you're looking towards doing over the next year or two for Melissa Manchester's world? I mean, you're already working on a bunch of them.
Yes, I mean, to continue celebrating my 50th year with audiences, and now that we can meet and greet again after the shows, it's really lovely. And review will come out, and I've already got my thoughts on the next recording. I just recorded a cut. I wrote a song with the great Ann Hampton Calloway.
Oh,
We recorded it together as a beautiful duet, and it's going to be on her next album. And so stuff is happening.
yes, it
Definitely.
is. And I had a very loyal person in my Living on Music Nation who knew I was talking to you, and she said the last time I saw her, she played "Don't Cry Out Loud," and I wept. Now your music is so moving and timeless that must just make your heart sing.
Yes, as I said, I was never interested in being current. I was always interested in being timeless.
Yep, well, it works. So, look, I wish you the best from here near Washington, D.C. If you're ever coming through this area or doing something here, I'd love to touch base with you again. And thank you for taking the time as you're sitting almost home in New York.
Yes, thank you.
And
Thank you.
we'll be in touch. Thanks, Melissa.
Wonderful.
Bye. It's I think years before I became a music journalist, I had always thought what it would be like to talk to some of these people that you listen to, the music that you listen to when you're younger, and that they're continuing to grow as you grow older, and they're continuing to do so well. And Melissa, wow, you're something special, my dear. I really, really respect not only her past, but her present and her future. It continues at this stage in her life, and it is just fabulous. So, Melissa Manchester, thank you so much for being on Living on Music. Please keep in very close touch. Everybody, if you want to join the family for Living on Music, or if you haven't already, go to Facebook right here, Living on Music on Facebook, and you can you sign up. We don't ping you every day with everything, but you do get some really neat kind of assorted pings. A lot of Bruce Springsteen lately, and people are like, "Hey, that's a lot of Bruce," and I'm like, it's my Living on Music, and I'm so excited he's touring again. So I've been really having a wonderful interaction with Bruce fans with stuff that I've just shared, and they've seen it. And if they have, they watch it again. If they haven't, they're blown away. So go to Living on Music on Facebook, also YouTube. That's where things are premiered and posted and run on, and that is where you can subscribe, and that would be wonderful. We're starting to again get our numbers up. Want to continue to grow, because if you reach a certain level, you're able to do a few more things on YouTube and things like that. Also, every show we air visually, which is the main part of Living on Music, can also air as a podcast, and the audio, and largely it is another wonderful ride. And you go here to Spreaker, or you go to any podcast and search Living on Music with Steve Houck, and it'll be there, and you can become part of it. Also, if you're into contributing to things like Living on Music continuing, we started it for pro bono with the Zebra Press ZTV, and it has continued forth and grown and grown and grown, but I've continued to do it pro bono because I've loved every second of it, and there's been a pandemic. So we're coming out of it, and I'm looking at sponsorships and also contributions. If you want to contribute and just help Living on Music, even in a minor way, you go to Venmo at Living on Music LLC, all one word there, Living on Music LLC, and contribute whatever you can. And you'll always be a legacy. We're going to list our contributors, and you'll always be a part of Living on Music for us. Anyway, thanks so much again, Melissa Manchester, and stay tuned in the weeks and months to come for more Living on Music amazement as we go through the spring, summer, and fall here in 2023. And don't forget, whether you're up, down, or sideways, whether you're feeling down and need something up, whether you're up and want to continue to be up, please remember, all you need to do really to keep feeling that way, feeling good, is to keep living on music.